I confronted my mother who abandoned me at the orphanage years later. Asterisk if you encountered someone who abandoned you years ago. Would you forgive them or demand accountability? Asterisk this question was like a scream echoing in my mind. Every time I walk the windy streets of Chicago. My name is Adele. I currently live in a luxury, award-winning tower right on the shore of Lake Michigan. My life is orderly and successful like a flawless architectural drawing. However, in the shadows of these towers grew a small, fragile girl, a child left at an orphanage. 25 years ago. When I was 4, my mother left me at the door of that cold, concrete building on Chicago's south side. She never looked back. The only thing she left behind was a faded, old music box with "To my dear daughter" inscribed on it. The rest of my life was spent trying to decipher that note. If I was her dear daughter, why was I abandoned? Asterisk as I grew up, this feeling of abandonment didn't consume me. Instead, it became my armor. I went through the orphanage and later university on scholarships, and I excelled in architecture. My success was a form of revenge, my way of saying to her, I existed without you, and I am better for it. Asterisk the moment of reckoning came last year at an art exhibition. I encountered an old but elegant woman, a recognized figure in the art community. I looked, my heart stopped. Her eyes, that fine line near her nose, the curve of her lips, they were all familiar. These were the features of the woman I knew from the single blurry photograph I kept inside the music box lid. Elizabeth Caldwell. My mother, asterisk, she didn't recognize me. Why would she? I was a little girl she left behind that door. But I carried her in every moment of my life, in every corner of my soul. Asterisk in that instant. The idea of forgiveness scattered like a leaf in the wind. The pain that had been brewing inside me for years hardened into solid rage. It was time for accountability. But this wouldn't be an emotional outburst. My revenge, like an architect's plan, would be subtle, sharp, and devastating. Asterisk I learned that Elizabeth had married a very wealthy man after abandoning me. She built herself an identity as a respected philanthropist. Now, she lived at the apex of society and served on the boards of foundations helping orphans. The cruelest irony. Asterisk my plan was this, to destroy her most valuable asset, her reputation. Asterisk Elizabeth was leading a major fundraising campaign for a new cultural center, and she was looking for the most brilliant name as the architect for the project. Coincidentally, that name was mine. Asterisk when I attended the meeting. I approached her with cold professionalism. I looked into her eyes, hiding the earthquake inside me. I told her, I understand your vision. This structure will improve the social fabric of the city. She was impressed by my talent and my success story. A successful woman from an orphanage was perfect PR material for her. She put me in charge of the project. She told me she was proud of me. It made me sick, but I continued the performance. Asterisk I gained full access to the project's financial structure. I examined how Elizabeth managed the foundation funds. I quickly discovered a masterfully concealed cycle of fraudulent invoices. That showed she was using a large portion of the money for expensive artworks and personal luxury spending. Asterisk. My goal wasn't to expose her, but to force her to expose herself. Asterisk as the architect I added small, critical structural weaknesses to the construction plan's flaws that officials would eventually notice, but couldn't immediately intervene on. For example, I specified a substandard material for the basement concrete mix that would lead to long-term corrosion. This would eventually threaten the stability of the project. It was impossible to prove I made this mistake intentionally. Architectural flaws happen all the time. Asterisk 6 months after construction began, a journalist received an anonymous tip regarding suspicious use of the foundation's funds. The source of the tip was, of course, me. The journalist began investigating evidence powerful enough to damage Elizabeth's reputation. Asterisk Elizabeth panicked. She demanded that I adjust the project's financial records and my flawed construction reports to divert the investigation. Asterisk that day, I summoned her to my office. As I looked out at the Chicago skyline, I held the faded music box in my hand. Asterisk Elizabeth Caldwell. I said, my voice steady, I know you've been embezzling these funds. Asterisk her face went white. What are you talking about? Who do you think you are? Asterisk I cut her off, placing the music box on the table. I am Adele, the little girl you left at the orphanage door when I was 4. I know you've been buying artwork with the money meant to secure the future of the children. At that very orphanage. Asterisk a shock warred with every expression on her face. I opened the old music box. The lullaby began to play. In that moment, the shock in her eyes was replaced by sheer horror. She hadn't forgotten that sound, that melody. Asterisk I am demanding accountability. Elizabeth, I said. Why? Asterisk her voice trembled. My daughter. I was young. I had a career. She started making excuses. Asterisk I didn't take my eyes off her. Give an account, or by tonight, all the evidence will be in the hands of the journalist. accompanied by the report of the architect who personally grew up in an orphanage and managed the project. Asterisk, the choice I offered her was simple. Either she lost her reputation, or she confessed everything that night. Asterisk, that night, Elizabeth requested a meeting with the authorities. To save her own life, she was forced to confess the entire fraudulent invoice cycle and the use of foundation funds for personal gain. Her career, like a rotten foundation beneath her reputation, collapsed instantly. Asterisk, I did not forgive her, but I demanded accountability, and that reckoning struck her where she was most vulnerable, her social status, and the respectable life she built on lies. Now the Chicago wind blows. I am no longer that orphan girl. I am the architect of ruin. And finally, the sound of that broken music box inside me has fallen silent.